Welcome to Ren Behind the Practice. I'm Sophie Campisi. I'm a holistic business strategist and startup expert, and I spend a lot of my time in conversation with practitioners, coaches, and healers about the behind the scenes of their businesses. What I started noticing is that some of the most honest, important conversations about building a practice were happening quietly, one-on-one, behind the scenes, and often in isolation. Most practitioners are incredibly skilled at the work they do with their clients, but very few of us were ever taught or trained in how to build a successful startup business. And suddenly we've been left to figure it out on our own. This podcast exists to bring those conversations forward, the dreams, the uncertainty, the highs and lows, the recalibrations, and the messy middle. My hope is that by normalizing these conversations, we can soften the stigma, feel less alone, and start closing the gaps together. Today's guest is Amanda Greening. Amanda is a nurse life coach helping women find more time and energy to love the life they are working so hard to build. Amanda, it's so great to have you here. Thank you for showing up and having this conversation with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Before we look behind the scenes, can you share with us a little bit more about the work that you do?
The work that I do, I really have had to have a hard stop in my life to realize that the way I was living was not the way I should be. And I say that because I was lost in my professional identity. I was lost in who I was. And I really had to find a way to work myself out of that. And then as I did that, I realized there's a lot of women who are lost in that. Me being a nurse, I'm just a nurse. That is heard said so many times, and I hear it from so many other women as well. So I was trying to find ways to let people understand you don't have to be the nurse the whole time. You can come home and be yourself and leave work behind. And that's really the bare bones of what I do.
So you specifically work with nurses.
That work with anyone, but since I am a nurse, I have a way to connect with them. I have the wording, the understanding what it means to be on call, those text messages about we need help and feeling guilty. And I've just really been able to connect with them. And also being a nurse, I've been in the healthcare for almost 30 years and I've been a nurse for 15. So I feel like it's a way I can give back to my own community.
Totally. I mean, from my seat, the startup expertise lens, that's a great place to start. It is always good to start where
Yeah.
the ins and outs, the pain points, it so well. One of the biggest mistakes people make early on often is they go try to find a target market that they don't have anything in common with. And it is one of the, again, not to say someone might not get to that population later on, but for starting, it is not a great starting place. And so for you to know a population of people so well inside and out is actually a really great thing when it comes to the business building side.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be honest with you, it was something I actually just learned recently because I want to help everyone. And being in that situation, I was like, ooh, I want to help everyone. I want to help everyone. But as it was picked apart and we realized that my passion, the most I understand is the nursing aspect of it. And that's my people.
You're already, a step ahead, not in terms of a race, but like that is such a good thing to come to. So whether you found it on your own or you had a coach or someone help you see that, it's really, really, really important because, going back to, it's one of the things that is a double-edged sword specifically for our industry, because like you said, we are people who want to help anyone and everyone. And we usually technically and skill-wise could help anyone. Our work is universal. Anyone could use it. When it comes to building a business, it is the number one way that brings a business straight kind of into the startup graveyard. And so it's just one of those things that we have to tease apart and have conversations about for us that's specific to people like us, because at first it can feel so counterintuitive to where our energy is to help people. Like that, it feels so natural and we're so attuned to possibility. And we see possibility in so many people in so many ways. And, again, we want to help so many people. But we have to reconcile that with the actual reality of if we can't get the business to work, then we can't work with anyone.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And if we want our mission to get out there, then we have to make the business side work. And the number one thing in terms of, early on and startup building and to get that early momentum is to be so clear and focused on a very specific type of person so that you can nail it with that type of person. And so everything that you said, yeah, I hear it. I did it for so many years. And it's again, we're not wrong for doing it. We're not doing it on purpose. It's where we get to energetically when we open up to the space of wanting to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually was lucky enough to have a coach that kind of pointed that out. She's like, I hear you, but when we talk about the nurses that you're talking with, you're more excited, you're more passionate, and that comes through.
And, one of the biggest things, you know, early on to lay a foundation for long-term sustainability and success is some of the stuff that you already talked about. It's not only, you're excited about them, but to really nail it early on and lay your business foundations, you have to know a group of people inside and out. And you need to know their pain points, their real pain points, like what keeps them up at night, what has them ultimately, taking action to solve a problem. Like it needs to be real pants on fire problems. You need to know what are their dream outcomes? Like, what do they actually want? What does success look like to them? How do they talk about their problems? Like these are all the things. And so when you're talking about your experience as a nurse and with nurses, those are things that you already know so well and so deeply, and you already have such a natural, just so much in common. Like the connections are going to be really authentic and easy and organic and natural because it's your people.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are things that it's not talked about enough, and I'm not sure why. So you're lucky to have found a business coach that was able to articulate these things because there's still a lot of people that aren't, it's undervalued and it's not talking about nearly enough how important it is to be able to just have conversations with the people who will ultimately be your clients. But just can you strike up a conversation with them naturally and talk to them and get to know them well? It's so important.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the biggest blessings that I have right now going forward with my business is knowing who my people are and being able to have those organic conversation, you know, and have them and be like, I understand that guilt you feel when you're like, oh, the unit needs me, but also the guilt you have with, oh, my family needs me. And how do you separate the two?
Totally. The most important thing is trust building. And the most effective way to build trust is to have real conversations with people. And, in today's world, I guess from the past decade or so, for some reason, we've come to this place where we feel like content and putting out content and having the perfect content strategy is the best way to find people and get clients. It is the least effective way to build trust.
Yeah.
It is because what you just said, having that conversation with someone and using, for you to say that to them and them automatically think, oh, she gets me. That's the most important thing we can do as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. And it's also so true to the work that we're doing, right? Like that's more natural. We want to be deeply connected to people.
Yeah. Yeah. And be able to speak to them in their own words, their own language, and to a point that they can understand that you know where you're coming from and you're there for them.
Absolutely. When you look ahead to the next 6 to 12 months, what goals do you have for your work and for your business?
For mine, I really, really am looking for ways to really connect with nurses. Nurses feel like they have to do everything and be there for everyone. And a lot of that is we're taught that as nurses. We're also taught that as women. And then you throw on the fact that they feel like I should be able to do everything. I should be able to take it on. And I'm really looking at talking to those women of hey, you don't need to wait until you're completely burned out where you just walk away and quit. There's ways of figuring out how to live the life of a nurse at the bedside and be that wife and that mother. And I'm just trying really hard to get in front of those women and find a way to talk with them to help them understand that you don't need to put it all on you and it's okay to ask for help and it's not selfish. That's a big one is we feel like we are being selfish if we don't take care of everyone every second and we put ourselves on the back burner. So just being able to have those more open conversations is what I'm looking for.
What do you think it's going to take for you to get there? Do you feel like you're guessing, or do you feel like you have a pretty good idea of how to make those connections in abundance?
Um, there is some direction forward, but a lot of it is guessing. A lot of it is trying to get in front of those people who need it. I have found a lot because I'm on Facebook quite a bit that there's a lot of nurses, especially who are very sarcastic, who are feeling like they need to have their words heard. And, when I reach out to people and on those one-on-one connections with people who I feel like really need to hear it are great. But for the most part, other nurses are shaming them for feeling that way, or you shouldn't feel that way, or just quit. And that's not supportive. I wish there was a more of a way that I could be like, you need to support each other. But it's kind of a lot of guessing. It's trying to figure out how to do it and how to get out there and be supportive for them.
Yeah, it's, one of the things that, first of all, I just want to acknowledge your clarity on that, because that's another thing that you, again, whether it's your intuition that's brought you there or having some coaching or some advice, you're looking at the right things. Like that is actually totally the right next step, is finding the people to have the conversations. Like that is where all of the magic happens when building a startup. And one of the things that you brought up is a subset of the breakdown of doing that, which is like when we talk about target market, usually, or, finding your people, it's always a starting point.
Hmm.
But some of the nuances that you just brought up, these are all these subsets of, finding your people and finding your target market that you can only find out when you're actually, air quotes, on the court, like doing the real work, and you just articulated something so well, which is like, your people are nurses. But when it comes down to like what your ultimate like target market is going to be, it's going to be some subset that comes down to some of these things that you never could have thought about, or probably never would have thought about just doing a hypothetical exercise by yourself. Like you're in the Facebook groups, you're seeing the conversations, you're seeing a real problem, which is like, however we want to articulate that, like, I don't know, kind of maybe a collective breakdown in attitude or resentment, or, I don't know, you probably have better words for that, you know, is probably something that you can work around, but that's a real hurdle when it comes to a startup. Is like, yeah, I know where my people are, but when I got in there, I'm seeing there's this major problem. There's a block around,
Yeah.
there's like a cultural block around this, or the way people are treating each other. Again, from my startup expert lens, like it's amazing that you're already starting to see that, because that's the real work of a startup. But I also understand how hard that can be when you're like, oh gosh, maybe I didn't expect that. And how do I work around that? How do I, work through that? Like yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see that. I'm sure it also is heavy for you.
It is. It's heavy. It's on different things. As a nurse, it's heavy because I'm like, these are your people. You should be loving and supporting them and cheering them on for whatever reason it is. But then also from the business side of it, I'm like, oh, you're shaming people for asking for help, or we're even, having those conversations. And that's hard as well because you just are like, I could help so many people get to the point, to where they feel happier, healthier, they have better work-life balance and things like that. So it is tough to see.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that like one of those things again that you can't really understand until you get on the court with it is that, and understanding that, I don't even have to know all of the ins and outs of nurses to know that your people are out there. It's a matter of finding them and figuring out how to approach these groups in a way to you identify them quicker, them identify you quicker, how to have those conversations that can kind of like give them some safe haven. I know your people are out there in that group. Uh, and yeah, you'll keep finding a way, like to, I don't know, for some reason the word safe haven is coming to me, like how to continue to like be a safe place to let people feel seen and heard. And of course, I'm not a nurse, but I am a mom, and so I kind of get some of what you're saying firsthand of like you're allowed to be a good mom and also say it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful way of putting it. And it's okay to say that nursing is hard and also still be a good nurse. And also be that nurse that hasn't checked out or isn't burning out. Because when my family goes into the hospital, I would much rather have that nurse who's like, I am only working my 3 shifts a week. I am going to relax. I'm going to recover. I'm going to go and enjoy time with people I want. So when I come back next week, I am ready to go. Instead of that one nurse who's walking into the room unsure how she's going to use her time, is very snippy, things like that. And I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming the fact that the pressure we put on our nurses and the fact that we expect them to keep going, put yourself on the back burner. And that's where I am, because I want not just these nurses to be taking care of themselves, but also being in a better place to take care of our loved ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. And the I'm sure there's real issues. And again, I'm not in the nurse world, but I'm sure there's real issues with quality of work too that's at play and quality of care. And I bet some of that can actually be really cause a lot of harm or ultimately be detrimental if that burnout hits a point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you get so tired. I mean, when you're at work, for me, for example, when I work, I'm up in the 4 o'clock hour in the morning and I'm home right before 9 p.m. And so it's not like I jump straight in bed. I have to wind down, decompress, talk to my husband, and then you go to bed. And then I'm up in the 4 o'clock hour. And 5 hours of sleep really isn't what my body needs, but it's what it runs on while I'm working. If I'm not able to come home, decompress, and actually get those 5 hours of sleep, I'm a mess. So when you have work conversations and things running through your head and all the stress of that, and those 5 hours are not good hours of sleep, then you go back to work even more exhausted, more tired. And we all know that things can happen when you're tired, you're exhausted, you don't want to be there. And I believe that it can run into also, safety issues, things like that. And not just for the nurses themselves, but for the patients.
Totally, I could totally see that. It's like well, seems a little bit like a broken system, which there's a ton of those out there in the world right now. But, again, like I just want to say that I see you and I appreciate the work that you're doing and also acknowledge that it probably feels heavy to you at times when you think of all these areas where there's breakdown in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're in there and you're seeing it, you can see a lot of the system problems. And it is a system problem. And I have been lucky enough to do the work myself because I was having a really hard time. I still go to the same hospital, I still go to the same unit, it's still the same system, but I'm a different person. I'm able to bring that in. I'm able to add that to my community there at work. And it's been interesting to watch my changes in development and how it affects the other nurses. They'll come to me, and instead of complaining, we're talking about other things, happier things. And so it builds a stronger relationship also in the workplace. And I feel like just even one person can help be a catalyst.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up because I think that is something that's so, important for all of those of us, in this pocket of the world doing this type of work to remember, because I think it can be so daunting sometimes. And I even still fall into that, being like, oh gosh, you know, feeling the heaviness of the breakdowns in certain areas or systems, and um, remembering that what there is for us to do is to lead by example. So not only lead by example, but then also do the work that we're doing. And when it comes to the business building side too, I have a mentor that reminds me of this too. There's a certain point where it is also our duty and our responsibility to let people know that we can help them. And I think that also ties into reconciling an area where some of us get stopped up. And even I do sometimes, certainly did in the past, where it's like, I don't want to be salesy and I don't want to be pushy. And you know, um, and we also have a duty and responsibility to let people know at a certain point that we can help them.
Yes.
And if we can be anchored into that, of all the things that you just said, you articulated that so well, of, leading by example, focusing on yourself first, doing the work yourself, and then also focusing on the people that you can help, even if it's one person at a time, really focusing on the fundamental, mm, you know, authentic integrity of the values of why we're doing what we're doing, and what we're doing can also really, really benefit the heaviness of the business building. If we remember, it's like, yeah, first of all, we need to be well, we need to be leading by example, we're way showers. And also, it's about helping people. And at a certain point, we have a duty and a responsibility to let people know that we can help them if we genuinely think that we can help them.
Yes.
Whether they become a client or not, that actually isn't the point. It really is like tending to a garden. You go out and you water it every day and you give it the nutrients that it needs and it gets the sunlight, but you're not, looking at a little bud being like, oh, that's gonna, be this greatest flower. It's like, no, we need to continue to tend to our, what I call the zone of impact, niche, target market, whatever we want to call it. It's about tending to it and thinking about it. It's like, one person at a time. It's just having those connections and letting that authentically, turn into something.
Yeah, I with my nursing background, I don't have a business background. And whenever I thought about sales and stuff, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that just sounds so gross." But it wasn't until a mentor, she put it in a way I understood. If you were sitting in a room listening with a bunch of people and you're listening to their sign, their symptoms, they're sick, speaking it as nurse terminology, and in your purse you had a life-saving medication, would you keep that to yourself? Or would you be able to offer it and be like, I can help you, and here is how? And when she put it in that terminology, I was like, that makes more sense.
Yes, that's a great metaphor for it, because that is when we, learn how to build in a way that really is in alignment with who we be, and also the work that we do and how we show up in the world. Well, first, I'm going to say part of the biggest breakdown for us as mission driven, heart led, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, service providers is that how we show up in the world as ourselves and also with our clients is very incongruent with how business naturally has been taught. So, like, there's that breakdown where we feel that big disconnect. And, like, what that mentor of yours said, a way that I say it to people on this podcast is, this comes up all the time, is like, the more we can bring that through line in of how we show up naturally in our lives, also having that be how we're showing up in business naturally all the time, like that in itself is going to take so much pressure off our nervous system of how uncomfortable that incongruence can often feel. So it's like, that's a great metaphor for how to continue to shift that more and more, of like, so that we can be in that perspective, in that seat, and also show up with our business as entrepreneurs, solopreneur, service providers that do have a service, continue to show up in a way that feels aligned with who we be already. And that example, it's so great because it's so true. It's like, if you were doing that as a nurse, or in that metaphor that you gave, part of what the old way of doing business tells us to do is like, you're going in that room, you don't even let someone talk, and you start being like, I have this thing in my purse,
Right.
you know? Like, I have this thing in my purse, you're finding someone on the street. I have this thing on my purse, in my purse. It can help you, it can save you. It's like, how do you even know? Like those cold emails that we're all getting 10 of a day in our email box, or like the cold reach outs where it's like, okay, that it's ineffective. Why? Because like, why do all that work? You don't even know if I have the problem. But if we do it more like in your metaphor, where it's like, hey, how do we on the business side get ourselves in a position, which is why, I already said this for you, like you're already in the right mindset of what you need to, what's it going to take to get there. But if we can, metaphorically speaking, continue to get ourselves in a room full of people who probably have a problem that we can solve, that thing in our purse could probably help, but let them talk first, right? Like listen to them, let them say what it is. Then if we do want to say, hey, I have this thing, like it's a really natural thing. We've already let them talk first. We've got to hear them. We saw them. We connected with them deeply. So by the time we let them know, it shouldn't be cringy or, uncomfortable, maybe a little, but like it takes so much of that out because we're approaching it how we would approach a real relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
What else has felt especially hard or heavy for you in this entrepreneurship business building process?
I think a lot of it is that people don't understand what coaches can do for them. Um, it's foreign to a lot of people who are not inside the coaching community, where they don't understand what it is. They also are like, oh, you're a therapist. No, I'm not a therapist. And with me, my license is tied to my coaching. And so I am very well aware of what my scope of practice is. I'm not a therapist. I'm going to let you know if I can't help you. And, there you go. Also, there's a lot of coaches who just want to get money instead of really being the person, the mission driven, not, coming from a place of service and putting your heart out there. And that's one of the things I think is a bonus with being a nurse is because of the integrity, the trustworthiness. Like, I'm an advocate in the hospital. I can be an advocate outside the hospital. And so I think the biggest hiccup is people don't know what it is. And they think they're going to get on a conversation with me and go, okay, tell me how I'm going to fix my problems. And until you are in that conversation, they don't realize that they're the ones doing the talking. All I'm doing is asking clarifying questions. And it's going where their heart and soul needs them to go.
Yeah, you brought up two really really great points. One is the reality is there's a lot of broken trust in our industry because of, for lack of a better term, bad coaches, people that didn't have high integrity, that their standards of care weren't there. What they wanted was, not the, authentic value of what most of, at least all the people that I talk to, like really care about the work and their mission. And it's a representation of who they'd be. It's their soul's work, like it's a really big deal. We care so much about the quality and the quality of care and all those things. So yeah, that's real. Like there is broken trust that many of us have to navigate. It's a reality of what we're up against on the business side is rebuilding that trust. There's so much cringy stuff out there.
Mm.
These are unregulated spaces, holistic coaching, the coaching world, transformational coaching, life coaching, they're unregulated spaces. And it's not to say just because you're in a regulated space that there's no cringy. I'm sure you see that all the time in the medical world. But certainly, there's anyone tomorrow could say, I'm a coach. And that's, we're dealing with the reality of that. So that's totally real. And the second thing, about kind of lack of education around coaching and what is it? One, I think in time we'll get there, but we're going to get there because of those of us that are doing it now. We have to do the work to stay on the court and, bring that education. But something else that was coming to me as you were speaking is kind of coming back to the, don't complain, don't ask for help vibes of your industry is like we're just in the reality of the world where people are like, I need to pull up my, bootstraps and like just figured it out on my own. And we haven't been taught that we can seek help for anything.
Yes.
And we should seek help in any area of our life where we're in breakdown from someone that has more competency and can help us navigate through that. The same way that if we've never played violin before and tomorrow we're like, yeah, I want to play violin. Well, it's very neutral. It'd be obvious. Okay, well go find a violin coach or a teacher or join a little music school to learn violin skills. That's like an obvious thing that someone would be like, oh, whatever, because it's neutral. Playing violin is neutral, probably. But when it comes to these things that feel more personal, we haven't worked through collectively the stigma where it feels like, oh, you know, I shouldn't, or if I admit to it, or what would people think, or whatever, I should have this figured out. I should know how to manage my money. I should know how to manage my own stress. I should know how to be able to manage my career with balancing my family and how I'm showing up. Like these are things that are the most important things to seek out help and support, but we have it so backwards still collectively that it's absolutely a hurdle that we're all facing when it comes to like the warmth around the harmony between coaches and the people that they're here to help.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it used to not be this way. It used to be like, if you think about it, when it was a very tight-knit village many, many years ago, when there was a problem, what did the younger people do? They went and spoke to the elders, the ones with the experience, the ones that could help them. And there wasn't a stigma in that. It was actually like, if you don't know, go ask. And now it's like, if you don't know, hide it and just pretend you do. And that's not good either. I mean, that teaches your nervous system to always be in that fight or flight or freeze mode and never to really relax.
Absolutely. And look where it's gotten us. And of course, people are talking about it out there, but that is one of the biggest costs of losing the village mentality and the village mindset. And, I'm thinking in terms of just marriage simply. Maybe it's because it's a big part of, my life. I have young kids and we're in building years. And it's like, you know, okay, well, get married and then go behind closed doors, close all your doors, and then like figure it out on your own. And then much less start having kids. And just everyone stays in their house. And it's like,
Mm.
where has that, it's, yeah. Anyway, I could go on and on about this, but yes, exactly. Losing that's the norm. That is the cultural, not just norm, but it's also the expectation because if you're struggling, it's affecting the whole village.
Yes.
So if you're going to work and you're struggling because you can't maintain, the work and you can't go home or your marriage is suffering or you're having, whatever, you're burnout and you're not sleeping, thinking in terms of nurses, like your unit is affected. So not
Mm.
only are you not getting help, but like that's collectively affecting the energy, the dynamics, all of these things. Like we're so interconnected. There is nothing that's truly in isolation. And so it's this like myth that like, oh, we can just hold our problems on our own and figure it out. It's like, not only is that not effective, just like if you were going to play violin, why would you be like, okay, let me just buy a violin and sit in my house and just
Yeah.
assume that I'm going to figure it out? But also it's affecting other people. The metaphor, talked to someone on this podcast recently about, I was thinking, I heard someone talk about it in the family unit of like, it's like a spider web. If there's movement on this side, the whole web feels it.
Yeah.
There is no disconnecting. There is no such thing as things actually being in isolation. So not only for individuals are they missing out on the opportunity, but also like we all need to come together and do a better job because we're all suffering. We're all taking each other down or we're all taking each other up. And so it's like a two-sided responsibility that we have to ourselves and also to others because we all need to be able we're just so interconnected. We need to rise together truly to be able to like come out and come through some of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you say that we're all interconnected and we either rise together or fall together. And if people are just there to complain about things and never really get anywhere, they need to take a moment and go, oh, I'm actually bringing things down. It's not a neutral thing. And being there and just letting people vent without really being able to help them or be able to steer them or even to be able to ask that question, do you want to change? Is also a big thing because that will help. Those are steps to build up instead of just the negativity, and that's hard.
Absolutely. It's making a choice to be effective and do something about it and change things. And we're headed there. We will get there, but it's because of people like you doing the work that's going to get us there. It's not going to be a blip in time for us because we're in it. It will be a blip in time for, our grandkids or their children that will be like, oh, yeah, there was this crazy time. But for us, we're in it. Like,
Yeah.
this is up to us. And having these conversations and talking about it is a big piece of that.
Yeah.
Last question before we wrap up today. If you could wave a magic wand and have one thing solved or fixed for you in your building process, what would it be?
Ah, I think for me, the best thing is just being able to find a way to have those conversations if they're one-on-one or even if it's many, if I was able to even have those conversations with like-minded people where we are sitting there and we are open and vulnerable and people can listen to each other and go, "Oh, I feel that way too." That would be my magic wand is just getting out there and being able to love and support and offer a service to people who really could use it and their lives would benefit from it. That is my big magic wand moment. I would love to have that opportunity.
Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, if any part of this resonated, you're in the right place, please reach out. I want to hear from you. And if you want to reach Amanda directly, the links to her website, Facebook page, and social media handle are in the show notes. Thank you again, Amanda. And to everyone else, thank you for listening. And we'll see you for the next episode of Ren Behind the Practice.